Hi guys, this is Sliver here, and this is a step-by-step guide on how to get a guaranteed Resplendent Spark every around 3 hours in Diablo 4 Season 5. Now I have to say that this 3-hour time really depends on your performance and your performance only, so if you've done this before multiple times, then you can reduce the time to about 2.5 hours, and if you're doing it for the first time, then it might take you 4 or 5 hours as well. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to go with a rogue. The reason for the rogue is that we don't want to complete the side quest, because that would take a lot of time and waste a lot of time, and rogues don't really have that powerful class mechanics as other classes, so we can safely skip the class quest. In addition to that, rogues have very high mobility skills, which are very important in the early game, so that's why we're going to pick the rogue. The first thing we're going to do is complete the first part of the seasonal quest line. We're going to go up until the point where the seasonal vendor appears in Zabrinzet, and the reason for that is we're going to go for the Resplendent Spark that you can get on every character once when you complete your seasonal reputation. So unlocking the seasonal reputation is essential for that. Before we leave town to do the first part of the seasonal questline, we're going to add into our inventory our level 1 legendary gear, which we farmed on another character. More on that later. We're also going to put into our inventory a few potions, which we have for XP increase reasons, and we're also going to take with us a few compasses to the infernal hordes, because we're going to use the infernal hordes for most of our leveling process. Please also keep in mind that according to the in-game timer, it is currently 5:18 p.m. So we're going to calculate the length of this run from 5:18 p.m. I still don't have the budget to give you a timer for the run, so we will have to just keep in mind this 5:18. A little bit about the gear sets that we're going to use during this run. First of all, we have the level 1 gear that you just saw me equip a part of during the ride into the quest, and you will see me equip more of during this conversation. The level 1 gear doesn't matter in terms of stats, it matters more in terms of the right imprints of aspects, and more specifically the right tempers. Most of the damage of this level 1 gear comes from the tempers on the weapon. The weapons have to be tempered for a lucky hit elemental damage, and this is what's going to do the damage for us. In the meantime, we're going to spec into a Puncture build, and I will have the link to that down in the description. And this Puncture build is very useful both in terms of mobility and in terms of damage. I already explained that the damage comes from hitting the enemies multiple times with Puncture and then proccing the elemental damage on our weapons. And our mobility will come from both of our mobility skills that we will pick up along the way, and it will also come from Flurry, or more specifically the skill specialization of Flurry that allows us to teleport to the target of our Flurry. And basically with that we will be very fast in terms of the completion of the early game, and I don't think any other class would be able to compete with this speed. So now we're currently slowly progressing through the beginning of the seasonal questline. Again, this is required for us to unlock the seasonal vendor in Zabrinzet, and we managed to just do that. After we talk to this guy, please don't forget to talk to this guy, because if you don't and teleport out earlier, then you will have to restart the whole quest line. So after we finish talking to that guy, we go immediately towards the first Capstone dungeon. And we are more than capable of handling the first Capstone dungeon, even at this low level, due to our gear and spec. So there is no need to farm Word Tier 1 at this level. You can just immediately get into the Capstone dungeon, and as you will see, you can just use your mobility skills, so the dash that we already unlocked, and the special of Flurry that makes you teleport to the enemy that you use Flurry on. And you will see that you are able to 3 to 4 shot even the anima carriers here, due to the fact that you hit them with Puncture. There is a really high chance of proccing the elemental lucky hit on your weapons, and this lucky hit does so much damage at this level that you are easily able to clear everything. Now let me talk about the gear that I'm wearing currently. You will see that the tempers are more important than anything on this gear. To farm a legendary gear that is equipable by a level 1 character, you will have to create a level 1 character and go to the Helltide and open chests in the Helltide. And this will give you rare quality, so yellow items, and you will be able to temper and imprint those items, and they will stay requiring only level 1. So this is how we got our items. Again, the stats on the items don't really matter. You will have to care about the temper and the imprint most of the time. Okay, so we're slowly approaching the first boss of the first Capstone dungeon, and you will see how fast we're able to obliterate these bosses, and how low effort this run is at this point. I will promise you that there will be more difficult and challenging parts of this run, but this is not really one of them, even though I almost got killed in this try. But due to the high damage that we have as a proc on our Puncture, it's not really going to be a problem to kill these bosses. So after we have killed the bosses, I'm going to make a quick cut, because as everybody knows, the second part of this Capstone dungeon is a kill everything objective, which is unfortunately not very exciting. So I'm just going to cut to the second boss of the dungeon, or at least close to the second boss, and you will be able to see what happens to the second boss, which I would argue is even easier than the first one of this Capstone dungeon, which might also be because we are a little bit higher level at this point. So let's go to the boss and let's see what happens to it. In the meantime, I would like to mention that the point of this guide is to provide an alternative for those players who don't want to endlessly farm tormented bosses for mythic uniques, and want a more reliable way of getting a Resplendent Spark than just the random chance of mythic uniques from tormented bosses. And I would say that the first half an hour to 1 hour of this run is very exciting. In general, it is very exciting to juice up a character so much as to speedrun the content from level 1 to almost level 100. So in the meantime, we finished the boss of the first Capstone dungeon and then unlocked Word Tier 3. And now that we are in Word Tier 3, we're going to go ahead and equip our kitten. I think you can do this at the very beginning. The kitten is very useful for picking up currencies, including the ether that you will find in the infernal hordes. So since we are in World Tier 3, we can now go into the infernal hordes, and we're going to do one single infernal horde tier 1. And this infernal horde tier 1 is going to be very interesting because it is very challenging since we are way lower than the intended level here, but we also gain a lot of levels very fast by killing the mobs. So I would say that this is the most difficult and challenging part of the run, to try and not die against these high level monsters. But also it is very rewarding because you see the levels run up so fast. In this situation, I have not sped the footage up at all. This is real-time footage, and this is how fast the leveling process goes. Our only goal in this Infernal Hordes Tier 1 is to get to level 35 or 36, because in level 35 or 36, you're able to wear your next gear, and even more importantly, you can wear Mythic uniques at level 36. So we are going to be here in this run only until we reach level 36, or at least something close to it when we feel safe enough to teleport out. In the meantime, we're going to allocate the skill points once again according to the previously linked and mentioned Puncture lucky hit build, and I will also cut the footage once again so our YouTube video doesn't get ridiculously long, but unfortunately it will get quite long by the end. So hopefully you're enjoying this run, and if you're finding it useful, then please consider subscribing to the channel. That would really help me out a lot and make me be able to create more guides like this for you. So at this point we are level 23 and the levels are still coming very fast. I'm going to cut to the point where we reach level 35 and I think even 36, and at that point comes the next step in our journey to getting the Resplendent Spark. So at level 35 or 36 you should finish your current Infernal Hordes wave, but you should not finish your Infernal Hordes event, because that would make you waste time as compared to what other things you could do. So when you are done with your wave, then you should teleport back to town, and there will be some interesting things happening in town. First of all, you should reassign your skill points to create a more endgame build, and this endgame build is going to be a Andariel Barrage build. So needless to say, you will need an Andariel Barrage as a mythic unique for this build to work, and we are going to use essentially an endgame build from now on, and more pieces of gear and skill points will come and make it stronger the higher level we get. You might have noticed that I still haven't done my class quest for the rogue, and we are not going to do that at all during this run. And also, maybe more importantly, we are not going to get and level any glyphs during this run, because that would take a very long time, which we don't have. We want to sprint towards the Resplendent Spark as fast as possible. So I'm going to speed up the process of spending our skill points, and now we're making our way to the stash to equip our mythic unique items. At this point we're going to equip all 4 mythic uniques that a rogue can equip, because that will make us stronger. And if you didn't know, mythic uniques can be equipped at level 35 if they do not have a gem in them. So you are able to equip this now. And we are not going to use all of the Mythic uniques forever. We're only going to have Ethereal's Might, obviously Andariel's Visage, and the Ring of Starless Skies in our endgame build. But at this point, at level 35, the remaining two Mythic uniques also help us with our damage. So as you saw, after equipping the Mythic uniques, I also equipped a level 35 or 36 legendary bow. This is not required for the run, however it will make us do more damage and go even faster. And right after the new skill assignments and the equipment swap, we went into the second Capstone dungeon. So at level 35, we are immediately starting the second Capstone dungeon, and it is no challenge at all with all these Mythic uniques. With Ethereal's Might, we barely take any damage, and with the Andariel's Visage and our new build, we also do a lot of damage. So this Capstone dungeon, like the first one, is no challenge at all. Now I'm going to speed up the footage once again for the sake of the YouTube video not being too long, but you can see that I have no issue with this Capstone dungeon at all. I'll be able to kill the Animus carriers at the end and the boss very efficiently, very fast. A few words about the gear that I currently have. First of all, we have a level 35 crossbow that is legendary. You have to farm this on a level 35 rogue in Helltide and then imprint it and temper it correctly. In addition to that, we are wearing 4 pieces of Mythic unique items that make us very strong, and in terms of damage and in terms of toughness as well. And lastly, we are wearing the remaining parts of our level 1 gear. You may have noticed that at this point we are not wearing aspects that are specific to our Barrage Andariel's Visage build. We don't need that, we already have the damage, and now I have the footage slowed down to normal speed to show you how fast we can kill the boss, and the boss is already dead. So that was a normal boss kill, it wasn't sped up at all. Now that we have killed the boss of the second Capstone dungeon, we run back to Kiovashad and change the difficulty to Word Tier 4. And this is very important because this unlocks the infernal hordes level 2 and above. So what we're immediately going to do is to open a tier 2 infernal hordes, get into it and start killing the mobs. We are not going to change any equipment, any skill points at this point. We just enter the level 2 infernal hordes. The reason for that is we want to level up all the way to level 55, and the reason for that is our next gear, which is going to be our Barrage Andariel's Visage gear, is waiting for us at level 55. And the levels are going to come here very fast. You don't even need a full tier 2 infernal hordes to get to level 55. At this point the footage is not sped up, so the amount of XP you gain is what you can see in real time in this footage. Quick time check, it is currently 5:46 p.m. so we started less than 30 minutes ago, only 30 minutes passed, and now we are level 48. And I'm pretty sure that it's not very difficult to do this even faster with more optimized gear, with a better computer that loads faster, and with more practice. So this is by no means an extraordinary run. It's not lucky at all. I would say it is average and can very much be improved upon. Another important thing that I have to touch upon is the Paragon points. You haven't seen me spend our Paragon points yet, and the reason for that is Paragon boards are not very important in this run. Since we're not going to get or level up any of the glyphs, which would be a waste of time, we need a lot of Paragon points to justify spending them, to justify spending the time to spend them. So we're going to save up a lot of Paragon points and we're going to spend them a bit later. So we are above level 55. We're going to reach the end of this wave and we're going to teleport back to Kiovashad at the end of this wave. The reason for that is that we're able to equip our next set of gear, which will be useful for our current build, so the Andariel Barrage build. And that will let us do a lot more damage, and more importantly, it will let us go into the tier 4 of infernal hordes, which obviously gives us more XP and more reputation. Here the reputation also becomes very important. I have found that even though you get a lot of reputation in lower tiers of the infernal hordes, the reputation scales with the tiers. So you will get more rep the higher tier you're doing. So now that we have our next set of gear, the level 55 gear equipped, we can move into tier 4 infernal hordes and we're going to be able to handle it quite easily. I decide that I have enough Paragon points to start spending them. You will find that assigning Paragon points is a lot different here than in normal gameplay. This is because we are not caring about glyphs, and we don't really want to spend a lot of time wasted on the Paragon points. So we are just going to get almost all the rare nodes, and we're going to focus on a few boards that have important legendary nodes on them. For example, the Eldritch Bounty. This is what I usually start with, and I try to get the legendary Eldritch Bounty node as fast as possible. You will also find that a lot of improvement could be made to this run if you want to optimize your Paragon board. I don't really like the system of copying Paragon builds from another monitor, so I don't really care about it, and I didn't spend very much time optimizing the build with that. If you are into that, I think you can shove off a lot of time on the final time of this run if you try to optimize the build with the Paragon board. So what we're doing now is blasting tier 4 infernal hordes for both experience and reputation gains, and fortunately the experience gain is really fast, so we can reach level 80 very fast this way. I'm going to cut to us reaching level 80 because this is going to be the next breakpoint that we have to talk about in our process for the Spark. So at level 80, we're going to teleport back to Kiovashad, and the reason for that is we can pick up our next set of gear at this level. This set of gear is going to be an Endgame Andariel Barrage gear, and some of it can be equipped at level 80, some of it can be equipped at level 90. Unfortunately, most of it requires level 90, but some of it, such as the Fists of Fate, which is a very important item for the build, can be equipped right now. So now what we do is equip all the items that we can equip at level 80 and put all the rest back into our inventory, and we're going to equip these at level 90 when we can equip them. Next, we're going to spend our Paragon points once again. We're going to max out all the rare nodes in the Eldritch Bounty board, and we're also going to add the second and final Paragon board that we're going to use during this run, and this will be the Cheap Shot board. The reason for using this board is the Cheap Shot legendary node, which is quite useful, but once again, a lot of improvements can be made to this run with an optimized Paragon setup. Now that we have our Paragon points spent and our gear updated, we can start running tier 5 infernal hordes. So we've upgraded to a tier 5 infernal horde where we can get more XP and more reputation. At this point, we are mostly farming for reputation, but we still have a few more pieces of gear to equip at level 90. Currently, we have two goals. First of all, we want to reach level 90 so we can equip the remaining few pieces of gear, which will allow us to farm tier 6 infernal hordes. And in the meantime, we want to get as much reputation as possible so that we can unlock the last bag from the reputation vendor, which contains our Resplendent Spark. So now I'm going to cut the video once again to the point where we have level 90. At this point, we're going to, at the end of the wave, teleport out of the infernal hordes, and once we are outside, we're going to go one step forward all the way to tier 6 of the infernal hordes. Also, now we are able to equip the last remaining pieces of equipment, which unlocks our full character power, and also it will make us be strong enough to farm this high tier. So let's see how this goes. While we are farming tier 6 and equipping the correct items, I would like to mention a few things about what is needed to do this farm. First of all, we need a few sets of gear that your character will be able to equip. There's a level 1 set, there's a level 35 set with the Mythic uniques and an optional crossbow. There is a level 55 set which involves switching the aspects and tempers to the Barrage Andariel's Visage build, and there is a level 80/90 Endgame set of gear. You can farm all of these sets except for the max level 1 with a level appropriate rogue, so you can farm the level 1 set on a level 1 rogue and the level 55 set on a level 55 rogue. If you're paying attention, then you can see that I've made another cut all the way to me being level 99, and this is around the level when you are supposed to finish your reputation grind. As you can see, I just reached the maximum tier of reputation on this character. This means that I am able to claim the reputation bag that gives us the Resplendent Spark. So we're just going to finish this Infernal Hordes run, and after that we're going to claim the prize. If you look at the time, it is currently 8:53 p.m., which means that we've completed our reputation grind in a little bit over 3.5 hours. I've heard of people who completed this run in less than 2.5 hours, so there's definitely room for improvement here. Maybe with the allocation of the Paragon points, maybe having a better computer with faster loading times, maybe improving the route a little bit, maybe having better gear sets. Keep in mind I only spent around 1 hour to farm all the gear sets except for the endgame one, so that could also improve on the time. But in general, I believe that this is a decent alternative to the Tormented Boss grind, and if you don't like the RNG of getting your Mythic uniques from tormented bosses, or if you don't like looking for group for tormented bosses, or if you hate farming tormented boss materials, then this is a decent way to get your mythic uniques as well. So all we have to do is to claim the mythic uniques from the last chest that we just got, and as a bonus we get all the other chests from the reputation, and this contains not only the Resplendent Spark, but also we get a lot of boss summoning materials, Stygian stones, and some gear as well. So if you found this video useful or entertaining, or you feel like you learned something from it, or if you want to try out this run, then feel free to leave a comment down below on how it went, or please consider subscribing to the channel because that would help me out a lot. Thank you very much for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye.